Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Welcome. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, according to Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Saud al-Faisal, believes that the decision that Libya has taken does not place any added pressure on Arab states. Rather, it totally exposes the Israeli position and supports their official stance on stopping the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. In an interview with the American TV station CNN, the Libyan leader General Muammar Gaddafi called on North Korea, Iran, and Syria, who are accused of developing nuclear weapons, to follow Libya's example and to end its weapons of mass destruction programs, adding that these countries may be able to prevent any tragedy from being inflicted upon their own people.
I believe they should follow the steps of Libya, or take an example from Libya. It would tighten the noose around the Israelis so that they would expose their programs and their weapons of mass destruction.
Unknown assailants killed Yusuf Khushi, a judge for the International Court of Justice on War Crimes in the city of Mosul in northern Iraq. A car in the Muthanna neighborhood in Mosul attacked him, killing the Iraqi judge immediately. A delegation of Arab country representatives headed by Prince Ahmed bin Hili visited the Shiite leader Ayatollah Sistani in the city of Najaf. Bin Hili confirmed that during the meeting, Sistani spoke about all the issues concerning Iraq, clarifying his position on the current situation, specifically the political issues concerning the transfer of power to Iraqis. Today, the Palestinian President Yasser Arafat met with Christian delegations from Jerusalem and Bethlehem. The delegations expressed their solidarity with Arafat after Israeli officials prohibited him from attending Christmas Mass in Bethlehem. Meanwhile, Palestinian officials state that Arafat has a strong desire to be in Bethlehem on Christmas Eve. However, Israel threatened him, saying he may not be able to return to Ramallah if he left.
Another year, and the birthplace of Christ remains under siege. The situation is the same for all Palestinian cities. One siege ends and another begins. The entire world is celebrating the birth of Christ, but the city of Bethlehem remains under a tight Israeli siege, diminishing all international condemnations and not permitting peaceful Christmas celebrations in the city. The voices calling for peace in the land of peace are not only from politicians and state leaders, but also from the people themselves. However, Israel increasingly dismisses these calls.
We need peace. As Koreans,
we need peace. As Koreans, we know that peace is very important for our lives. Korea was divided into North and South. Without peace, we cannot live together. Therefore, I'm asking Israelis and Palestinians to achieve peace.
These pilgrims came from all over the world to visit the birthplace of Christ and celebrate Christmas in the Holy Land. They are singing Christmas carols amid all the sadness and sorrow caused by the Israeli siege.
First, I want to say that we are preparing for this blessed holiday. The festivities start today. We are optimistic. If God is willing, this year will bring peace and good tidings. Also, we hope that tourists and pilgrims return to visiting the city. Of course, we have some reservations. First, not allowing the president to attend the celebrations for the third consecutive year. Second, the checkpoints are still there.
For the third year, the Israelis would not allow the president to attend Christmas Mass at the Church of Nativity. However, he met with Christian and Muslim delegations who are in solidarity with him, supporting him during these difficult times. The Lord is highest, and peace on earth. These are the innocent voices being heard in Ramallah on Christmas Eve, calling for peace in the land of prophets.
Non-stop Israeli military aggression on the Gaza Strip and the West Bank claimed the lives of 7 Palestinians and wounded 20 others in a pre-dawn raid on Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip. Earlier, 2 Palestinians were killed at a crossing point in Gaza during an operation that killed 2 Israeli officers. The occupation forces had also conducted sweeps into Jenin and Balata refugee camps in the West Bank, in which many Palestinian civilians were injured.
The promises of Israeli Premier Ariel Sharon to move the roadmap forward were all in vain. On the ground, there was nothing but Israeli killings. The occupation forces killed at least 7 Palestinians during one of the bloodiest incursions into the Gaza Strip in recent months. 5 were killed during a major pre-dawn army incursion into the Rafah refugee camp in southern Gaza. Some 15 jeeps and armored vehicles took part in the raid, where several houses were damaged. One of the martyrs was named Ahmed al-Najjar, a policeman at the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt. He died from head injuries after being struck by shrapnel from a shell. Another one, Khamis Anwar al-Rahi, member of the Islamic Jihad movement, died of his injuries after being struck by shell fragments. The 3 others killed were civilians and 20 were reported wounded. Israel, as usual, claims that the aim was to expose tunnels for smuggling weapons. Fighters had earlier killed 2 Israeli army officers in a grenade attack after they stormed into the center of the Palestinian territory. The 2 were killed near the Kisofim crossing point, a road that links 1948 occupied land to Gush Qatif. One of the fighters was shot immediately by other soldiers, while the second was killed during clashes with the occupation soldiers. Palestinian witnesses said that Islamic Jihad and the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades claimed responsibility for the operation via loudspeaker at a mosque in Jabalia in the Gaza Strip. This came after Israeli occupation forces conducted a long day of arrests and aggressions over the West Bank territories. They wounded 3 Palestinians Monday as occupation troops pushed into the West Bank town of Jenin and arrested Isa Abu Sa'id, a senior member from the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. Troops surrounded his house and arrested Sa'id, provoking heavy exchanges of fire with Palestinians. 3 civilians were wounded during the raid, in which around 20 jeeps and tanks backed by 2 Apache assault helicopters pushed into the town in the late morning. In Nablus, Israeli occupation troops continued to raid the Balata refugee camp in what the army calls a sweep for Palestinians. At least 5 were detained during the aggression.
Later in the day, Israeli police said Monday night that they have arrested 5 Palestinians believed to be in connection with the assault on Egyptian Foreign Minister Ahmed Maher. A group of Palestinians threw shoes at Maher as he attempted to enter the Al-Aqsa Mosque, labeling him as traitor. The Palestinian Authority and government denounced the attack as well as Hamas. Maher's visit was aimed at relaunching talks between Israeli and Palestinian leaders and put the roadmap back on track.
Is a city that has been beleaguered and destroyed by the army machine of Israel under the orders of Prime Minister Sharon. Rafah today faces yet another catastrophe added to the 1,500 homes that have been totally destroyed and 5,000 homes that have been partially destroyed. The attack in Rafah is a blatant aggression and a crime, while Mr. Sharon is talking about peace and while Mr. Sharon is making statements about the roadmap. من جانب من فمه ويصدر أوامر القتل والحرب من
Egyptian Foreign Minister Ahmed Maher has returned home safe and sound later Monday after his one-day visit to lands occupied in 1948 turned into a show of non-welcome by Palestinians who labeled him as traitor and collaborator. Maher was there holding talks with Israeli Premier Ariel Sharon and his Foreign Minister Sylvan Shalom over how to get the so-called roadmap back on track. Sharon told Maher that he remained committed to the roadmap and would respond in kind if Palestinian factions declared a truce. He warned that he would disengage from the plan within months if the Palestinians did not start meeting their obligations. The factions say they would engage only in bilateral truce and not a unilateral one. The Palestinian Authority also says Israel must refrain from building the separation wall on the West Bank land and to withdraw from Palestinian self-ruled territories and dismantle settlements there as outlined by the roadmap. A source close to Sharon said the Prime Minister had told Maher Israel would hold back from major military actions if the mediation succeeded. Maher said he was sent by President Hosni Mubarak to encourage Israel to meet Palestinian leaders. But the Foreign Minister, who was the first high-ranking official to visit Israeli leaders since the Intifada erupted in 2000, did not meet Palestinian Chairman Yasser Arafat. Shalom said they are ready to renew dialogue with the Palestinian Authority immediately. Sharon himself hailed Maher's visit as an opportunity to not only strengthen ties with Egypt, but the Palestinian Authority as well. This, however, was not how several Palestinians saw it. On Monday afternoon, and as Maher arrived at the Al-Aqsa Mosque for prayers, a group of Palestinians started shouting at him and threw shoes on him. Bodyguards surrounded Maher and immediately took him to hospital after suffering from breathing difficulties only. He was released 3 hours later. Israeli police said Monday night that they have arrested 5 Palestinians believed to be in connection with the assault on Maher. Palestinian witnesses said the men were members of the Fringe Islamic Liberation Party. The Palestinian Authority and Palestinian Prime Minister Ahmed Qura condemned this kind of action, saying that Maher's visit aimed to support the Palestinian people and put an end to Israel's aggressions. Hamas and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine condemned the attack as well, saying that it was aimed at harming Palestinian-Egyptian relations. President Hosni Mubarak deeply regretted the assault on Maher, and Amr Moussa, the Arab League Secretary General, also condemned the attack. U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell spoke to Maher before he left Jerusalem, bound for Cairo, to wish him well and to talk about his mission to the occupied territories. Sharon also spoke to Maher to express his concern for his health.
Foreign Minister Ahmed Maher has played down an assault on him at Al-Aqsa Mosque. Upon his return to Cairo late on Monday, Maher asserted that what had happened would only increase Egypt's determination to work for the sake of peace and Palestinian rights. Meanwhile, Palestinian President Yasser Arafat sent senior PLO official Farouk Qaddoumi to Cairo on Tuesday to apologize to Egyptian leaders. On arrival at Cairo airport, Qaddoumi accused Israel of planning the attack on the top diplomat. Maher, who went to Islam's third holiest shrine to pray after talks with Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and other officials, was taken to a Jerusalem hospital for checks and released several hours later. The Egyptian presidency expressed deep regret at the incident, but said the country's commitment to achieving peace was undimmed. Meanwhile, Egyptians reacted to the news of Maher's assault with shock and dismay. Shayra Amin has been finding out what the layman's views are on the issue.
Shock and dismay. That's the reaction on the Egyptian street to the attack on Foreign Minister Ahmed Maher as he was praying at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque. Maher was there for a good cause, to mediate between Palestinians and Israelis and to try and bring them back to the negotiating table. What happened is shocking, says this man. It's a great shame that this should happen from Palestinians, whom we're trying to assist. We're all one people struggling for the same cause. Tourists visiting Egypt also express their sympathy. This visitor from Slovenia says there can be no peace without dialogue.
Every attempt to solve the problems is a good one. So your foreign minister tried very hard, so it's quite bad that it's happened what it happened actually.
President Mubarak has expressed his deep regret over the incident, condemned by both Palestinians and Israelis. A badly shaken Maher said after the attack that it would not stop Egypt from continuing to exert efforts to achieve peace. Many on the Egyptian street echoed his view. The Palestinian issue is of concern to all Arabs. We cannot put the blame on all the Palestinians just because a couple of Palestinians committed this irresponsible act. If the Palestinian issue is resolved, most of our problems in the Arab world will in turn be settled. Egypt has adopted the Palestinian issue as its own since the days of the late Gamal Abdel Nasser, so what happened will not deter us from pursuing peace. Although angered by the incident, Egyptians are determined to continue on the path of peace. A few irresponsible Palestinians, they say, should not deprive a people of their right to an independent state of their own. Shahira Amin, Nile TV International.
Iraq's most prominent Shiite cleric, Ayatollah Sistani, has endorsed a role for the Arab League in supervising the coalition's transfer of full sovereignty to an Iraqi government. The League's delegation visiting Iraq made the announcement on Tuesday. Speaking of the meeting, the cleric, Ambassador Ahmed bin Hilli, who is heading the Arab League mission to Iraq, said the delegation had listened to the Ayatollah's analysis and vision concerning the transfer of power to Iraqis. Bin Hilli told reporters he appreciates the fact Sistani has insisted on a role for the Arab League in the process of transferring power to Iraqis. Sistani has criticized the US-led coalition's schedule for its plan to create a provisional Iraqi government through a series of formal regional caucuses rather than by holding general elections. The Arab League delegates are to meet with members of Iraq's US-installed interim governing council on Wednesday.
U.S. soldiers have made several arrests in Iraq that they hope will lead to the capture of the most wanted Iraqi official still on the run. But the assassination of a senior Iraqi judge highlights instability in occupied Iraq. U.S. troops hope the detainees will generate intelligence leading to Aizat Ibrahim, one of the aides of former Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein. Aizat Ibrahim, who has a $10 million reward on his head, is number 6 on a list of 55 Iraqis most wanted by the U.S., despite the raids and the capture of Saddam himself. Fighting in Iraq showed no sign of abating, throwing into question the link between resistance and the former president. A top investigating judge in the northern city of Mosul was killed by 3 men in a car last night. The assassination was part of a wave of attacks in recent weeks on officials working with the U.S. occupation troops and administration, including policemen, all executives, and other judges. And after long reluctance, South Korea has said that it would send 3,000 troops to the northern Iraqi city of Kirkuk in late April, in a controversial decision looked upon with unease among most South Koreans. The decision has sparked angry anti-occupation protests by scores of demonstrators gathering outside the assembly. Opinion polls show that the majority of South Koreans oppose the dispatch of troops to Iraq. Saudi Arabia has said that it will not discuss any loan write-offs with Iraq's governing council. The interim U.S.-appointed council is facing a debt burden estimated at more than $100 billion. Foreign Minister Prince Saud al-Faisal said his country would wait until Iraq had an independent government before looking into possibly reducing the debt. Observers estimate Iraq's debt between $100 to $120 billion, but that could rise to as much as $170 billion if compensation claims for Iraq's invasion of Kuwait are included, and more if Iran seeks compensation for the 80s war with Baghdad. The Saudi minister also expressed hope that Libya's revelation that it is abandoning plans to build an atomic bomb and other weapons of mass destruction would prompt other countries, namely Israel, to follow suit. Still in other news, the UN International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, is probing the possibility of Pakistan and middlemen giving enrichment know-how and hardware to Iran. The IAEA apparently has the names of some half a dozen Pakistani nuclear scientists said to have helped Iran. Western diplomats in Vienna also said that several middlemen who helped Iran skirt international sanctions to acquire centrifuge technology were also Pakistani individuals. Although the IAEA is continuing its probe, it has not fingered Islamabad or any other government as an official nuclear supplier for Tehran. Tehran has denied cooperating with Pakistan's government on its atomic program. Pakistan's foreign ministry said that it was investigating the issue, and if there is a case, it will take the necessary action.
There are indications that certain individuals might have been motivated by personal ambition or greed But let me also add that we have not made a final determination. Our investigations are continuing. If there are any individuals who are found involved in transfers of any sort, action would be taken against them. Nobody is above the law.
The Israeli government applauded the White House for the historic achievement of capturing Saddam Hussein alive. Prime Minister Ariel Sharon called the American President George Bush to congratulate him. Defense Minister Shalom Mofaz also sent his congratulations to U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, saying that capturing the Iraqi dictator is proof that countries of the free world, led by George Bush, are determined to achieve victory over unjust regimes. The regimes that deny people human rights and prevent them from living in security and dignity. Ariel Sharon received delegates from the U.S. Congress and congratulated them for the historic achievement, saying that the world has been relieved by the arrest of the tyrant.
Good evening. 2 hours ago, I called the American President George Bush and congratulated him for the successful campaign led by the coalition forces in capturing the tyrant Iraqi dictator and arresting him. I also told President Bush that this day is a great day for the democratic countries who are fighting for freedom and justice and opposed to terrorism. I congratulated Bush for his courage and unrelenting leadership in fighting international terrorism. I believe that dictatorships in general and countries that support terrorism in particular have learned a historical lesson. The enlightened international community has shown that it is capable of defeating terrorism.
The capture of Saddam Hussein raised questions in regard to weapons of mass destruction and his historic relations with Palestinian and Syrian leaders. Our reporter, Ashley Elias, prepared the following report.
Interrogating Saddam Hussein may shed light on many issues of concern to Israel. Did Iraq have weapons of mass destruction? And did they have long-range missiles like Israeli and international experts were claiming? If the former Iraqi regime had these weapons, why didn't they use them? And where are they today? Investigations of Saddam may explain Iraqi actions in their wars, including this one, and the 1991 war, when Iraq launched missiles toward Israel. Also, Saddam may reveal information about the Iraqi involvement in the Palestinian resistance and the level of their financial support to Palestinian terrorist organizations. Saddam may also talk about the Syrian involvement in harboring Iraqi officials and taking Iraqi weapons before and during the war. If Saddam reveals information in this regard, the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad, which is on the list of regimes described as an axis of evil by the U.S., may have problems.
The Israeli Defense Minister Shaul Mofaz and Minister of Justice Tony Lapid announced that Israel wants to participate in international trial of the Iraqi former President Saddam Hussein. Similarly, the spokesman of the Iranian government, Abdullah Ramadan Zad, announced that Tehran is preparing a lawsuit against Saddam for committing crimes against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The suit will be submitted for the International Court of Justice. Meanwhile, the controversy over where and how to try Saddam is still ongoing. despite assurances from the Iraqi Governing Council and the U.S. that he will be tried in a fair Iraqi court.
Since
his capture, Saddam is still being held in an undisclosed location, awaiting an unknown future. However, the Pentagon is revealing details about the Red Dawn operation, which led to his arrest. U.S. soldiers led journalists to the location of the arrest while military helicopters were flying above farms in Tikrit, and visitors were standing in front of a simple cottage, which was rearranged to look like it was before the operation. One soldier was pointing to a hole located under a palm tree, explaining in detail how he found Saddam's secret hiding place. While TV stations are still reporting about the drama of capturing Saddam, controversy over where and how he will be tried is still ongoing. Lawsuits against the former Iraqi president are being filed from Iraq and other countries. U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld announced that Saddam Hussein will be treated as a war prisoner in accordance with the Geneva Convention. However, other U.S. officials said that it is unlikely for him to be tried in the International Court of Justice, like the previous President Milosevic of the former Yugoslavia. The Iraqi Governing Council and the United States agree that Saddam must be tried in an Iraqi tribunal court, which was established on December 10th. However, the Israeli plan to submit a lawsuit against the Iraqi president for launching missiles against Tel Aviv during the first Gulf War of 1991 raises questions about the willingness of an Iraqi court to review an Israeli lawsuit. Like the Kuwaiti government, the spokesman of the Iranian government announced that his country is preparing a lawsuit against the former Iraqi president for crimes committed against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Legal experts cast doubt on the ability of an Iraqi court to provide a fair trial for Saddam Hussein, not only because the case is complicated, but also because members of the Iraqi Governing Council have announced their position against Saddam Hussein's regime.
Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, which promotes journalism excellence worldwide and invests in the vitality of 26 U.S. communities, and the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation and Henry and Virgilia Dakin.